First of all, is that not the greatest thing ever? There is a moment where comedy becomes art, art becomes comedy. That is a work of art. Leonard Skinner, and the drums are gunshots. Now, is there anything more American than that? I'm not mocking anything. People are going to look at that and say, why does anyone need all those guns? First of all, you'll understand after having lived in America what makes America America. It's not just the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. It's not just the First Amendment. It's the Constitution with a capital C. People, there is a reason why the experiment that is America has been the greatest success story of a country on earth. It's not without its foibles, but despite all its foibles, it's the best country on earth. And I say this after having gone behind the Iron Rainbow, the Maple Gulag, people. I'm going to show you a little bit of that in a second. That is an absolute work of art. Another one, this was the runner-up in terms of how I was going to start the show. This one could have been the starting one as well. This video will always be funny. Why does anyone need that many fireworks? Because it's the 4th of July. Now, maybe you want to exercise a little bit of caution in the way that you are deploying your fireworks. This is an oldie, but an absolute classic. Here we're setting off the fireworks, and it falls on the side and scares the women and children. Pay attention in the background right here, people. Oh my God, he knows This is not AI, people. This is just one of those moments. Hopefully everybody made it out. It looks like they all got, far enough away and nobody got grievously injured. And hopefully whatever damage was caused, they could make up with the licensing sales of that video, because it's the greatest video ever. People, I have been traveling across the Iron Gulag, the Maple Dome. Well, you know what I'm talking about. I was in the middle. I say the middle of nowhere, not because it's like, to be degrading or demeaning to the province of Quebec. I was in the middle of nowhere. Ile d'Orléans, for those of you who don't know, is we went camping there. We're in the middle of rural Quebec. And we're in a place where people speak French. We're in a place where people go to escape politics. We are in a place that is heavily reliant, is an understatement of the millennia, that is virtually totally dependent on tourist dollars. Given its proximity to America, to Maine, New York, they're heavily reliant on American tourist dollars. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and we like to go to not pawn shops, antique shops. And we go to an antique shop just, to see what they have. And I approach the front door of the antique shop. Let me just pull up the tweet here. And I can't believe what I'm seeing on the door. At first, I thought it was a joke. And then I realized it wasn't a joke. I blurred out the name of the business for 2 reasons. I'll get to them in a second. This is the level of insanity in the country in which I was born. This is in the middle of nowhere, not in a demeaning sense, but just in a political sense. The sign on the door says, Trump's friends or supporters are not welcome here. This is an antique shop that relies on tourism. Obviously, they don't really need the money. They probably get seasonal compensation from the government. The seasonal workers, they work 6 months a year and then they get government subsidies for the other 6 months of the year. And what many of them do is work under the table for 6 months of the year and then claim the benefits for the other part of the year, so they don't pay tax on what they get by cash. I haven't seen very much cash in Canada, so I'm not sure that that's the case anymore. I see this sign in the middle of nowhere, and part of me, wanted to put the whatever on blast. I'm not interested in review bombing from people who this is how things work on the internet. And the flip side is the dude might like the attention that comes with it, and it might be a source of pride in that particular demographic to, think in his own mind, oh, look how awful these people are. This is why I don't want them here, because they will call and leave nasty messages. And this is the level of insanity in Canada, where all of its problems, despite all of its problems, it has picked the boogeyman of America. Now, there might be some grievance in terms of, the tariffs that Trump had imposed. But it wasn't Trump and Americans telling Americans not to visit Canada and spend their tourist dollars in Canada. It was Canada and the Canadian government telling Canadians not to go to Florida, not to buy American products. They were dumping out American booze north of the border. And now they're saying, we don't need your money. It's the epitome of cutting off your nose to spite your face, to say, I hate what you think, therefore I don't even want your money. I'll be starving in a desert, but I won't drink water from the hands of a Trump supporter. And incidentally, the beautiful, tolerant left, everyone's welcome. Be proud. This is what they do to their perceived ideological adversaries. Take pride in being intolerant bigots, because that is the word, bigot. The irony of it, by the way, is that it might run afoul of local provincial language laws. That would be the ultimate irony. In Canada, for those of you who don't know, in Quebec, you can have a bilingual sign. In fact, all signs must be bilingual if they are to carry any other language other than French. But even when they're bilingual, the French portion has to be, quote, nettement prédominante, clearly predominant. And so typically they say 2-to-1. The French version, or the French section, has to be twice the size typographically of the English, or the Mandarin, whatever it is, or the Hebrew. They actually, by the way, they went into the language police, do this. They go into like specialty shops, like in Chinatown, kosher shops, and they say, oh, you don't have French on this, halal or this MK kosher product. You got to put French on it. They go to Chinatown, and on the herbs and the medicinal stuff that they sell in the markets, they got to put French on it. The law. That sign might run afoul of the law, but just the idea that someone is so filled with hatred that they feel the need to express it in that manner and fill in the word Trump and his supporters for any other demographic, any other political leaning, any other identifiable group. I mean, and I guess they're going to say, well, Nazis and their supporters are not welcome, and no one would have a problem saying that. And they've equated politics with people they disagree with, and they don't even know why they disagree with them, for the most evil form of politics in history. Would they say communists are not welcome here? Socialists are not welcome here? Carney and his supporters or friends are not welcome. It was mind-blowing. That being said, happy 4th of July, people. We are live. I was on the road camping. We were trying to camp. It's you bite off more than you can chew sometimes, or you think things are going to be easier. You're going to go drive from Florida to Canada with 2 kids and 2 dogs, and you're going to go camping, 3 kids and 2 dogs in a small vehicle, pitch a tent. And suffice to say, I also discovered the sun rises about an hour and 20 minutes earlier in Canada at this time of year and sets even later. So we're camping. 4:50 in the morning, the sun is rising. The birds are chirping. The ones that are particularly annoying are the crows. And then you hear the woodpeckers. 4:50 in the morning. Now, it's very difficult to sleep in a tent with a dog that snores. I've been told I snore louder than the dog. We've been having a great time. And coming back to the madness, seeing it firsthand, and you realize you cross a border, you're crossing a plane of reality. And as we drove through Montreal, I showed you the video that I put up earlier this week. I'll show it to you right now. You cross a different plane of existence. And Montreal has become a festering cesspool. And I'm not saying it to be funny. I actually feel kind of bad going to my birth city and seeing what it's turned into. A festering hellhole. I covered this the last time I was in Canada. They put up a safe injection site, put it in quotes, about a mile from where I used to live. And this is what it looks like. So I'm back in Montreal at the Atwater Market area. Right behind me, you'll notice, is the open air injection site. But this is the Atwater Market. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's historic. They've got farmers market, flowers, restaurants, everything. And right across the street, and I mean right over my shoulder, is the open air injection site. And it is right next door to a playground. And I mean literally right next door. That's a playground. That's the open air injection site right behind us. And you sit here and you watch what happens. And We just saw someone breaking up a fight, but as I was crossing the street, I saw this. I'm getting run over by a car. This is Atwater Market right here. I see this. I don't know what that is. I mean, I have an idea as to what that is. Just in the middle of the street. I don't know if it's crack, heroin, fentanyl, crystal meth, just a little dime bag of white powder in the middle of the street. Playground right there. Open air injection site right here. Atwater Market right here. And we can pause it right there. The funniest thing, I say it's funny, it's sick in a way. The comments I got on that video, oh, I hope you picked that up and didn't leave that there. First of all, they have at the safe injection site, I guess it's a good thing, right? They have employees who literally go around picking up the used needles and waste. I went back a couple of hours later and the dime bag was no longer on the street. People are suggesting I call the police to have them come pick up a dime bag of crack cocaine, whatever the hell that was on the street. Imagine the resources that are now being expected of citizens or people there to call the police so they can dispatch services to come and clean up a dime bag of whatever the hell in front of a safe injection site where they're already employing people. This is how you squander the wealth of a nation, by implementing bad policy that actually causes more harm than good and then exacerbates and depletes already strained resources. It's amazing. And 2 days later, when we're driving out of Montreal, I swear to you, I'm fairly certain the individual was deceased. We see a homeless person on the west side of Atwater in a fetal position. His face is gray-blue, and I'm driving by. I can't pull over. I'm driving by, and I'm like, that guy's dead from an overdose. There was a woman standing over him. She was on the phone. I called the cops, not to clean up a dime bag of garbage, to get a paramedics over there and maybe administer Narcan to this guy because he seems to be a little bit far from the safe injection site. It's out of control. Filth, homelessness, mental illness, drug addiction in the city, not just there at that safe injection site either. And it gets exponentially worse each time I go back. Another funny comment I saw in that video, someone said, Viva, this is what you're posting, reactionary stuff and not proposing any solutions. First of all, posting the problem is already part of a solution. Putting on blast the devastation that comes from these open air injection sites is part of the solution already. Second of all, I literally ran for federal office before I left that country. Third of all, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know what the solution is, not to have safe injection sites, because they don't reduce addiction, they don't reduce overdoses, they don't do anything except destroy the local community. And unfortunately, sometimes all I can do is put things on blast and complain, and then maybe sensitize people to the gravity of the problem. That's what's going on in Canada. It is 4th of July in these United States of America. I think everybody should say it. God bless America. Despite its foibles, it's the greatest country on earth because of its constitution, because of its, say, federalist structure. They respect state independence, state autonomy, not perfectly, and it's not, again, without its own problems, but so much more than what's going on in Canada. And if you want to live in a communist state, you have your pick: California, Michigan, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania. And if you want to live in the land of the free, you also have your pick: Tennessee, Texas, Florida, New Hampshire, and a few others that I'm sure I'm missing. It's the 4th of July, people, and we're going to get it on. It feels weird having missed a week of streaming, or at least 3 or 4 days, but we're back for a special. Now, how goes the battle, people? Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. We got our show going on in vivabarneslaw.locals.com.